Thank you very much for everybody who's joining in on this call or watching the video live, or recorded video, I should say. My name is Grant White with Endeavour Wealth Management, and again, I've got another really special guest with me today for this call. We're calling this segment "Checking In" because during this time of COVID-19 and everything that's going on in the world, where everybody's in social distancing mode, we've been doing lots of check-ins with a lot of people, whether it be clients or other staff members, and so I like to call this segment "Checking In." And today we got our financial planner in our specialist financial planner in the office, Rita Burgess, with me. And so Rita, just to give some background on you, I'll just do a brief intro because you've met a lot of clients, but there's still a number of clients of ours, and certainly people that might be viewing this that have never met you. And so you've been practicing financial planning for 20 plus years now. You've been in the industry for over 20 years and in various different roles, with banks and more recently joining us. I'm going off your LinkedIn page, which describes saying that you have a real passion for applying financial knowledge and expertise to help clients develop a personal financial strategy, which I've seen firsthand, and I know a lot of our clients have also experienced that. The ones who've met you and already worked with you. From a personal note, I would just say that you're playing a really integral role at Endeavour Wealth Management in building and coordinating our clients' financial strategies, and having somebody in your role to help us do that has been absolutely integral. And we hired you back in December, I believe, mid-December-ish, right before the holidays. So we hired you back in December, and so we haven't worked together all that long, but I can say that you fit in seamlessly already with this crew, and our service model for clients is that much better for having someone like yourself on board. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you joining me for the call today.
Well, thank you very much, Grant. You make me sound really good, so thank you. But I have to say, it has been an absolutely awesome experience having the opportunity to work alongside you and the whole Endeavour team. I have to say, when I started in December, it truthfully, it has been seamless, and I can't believe that it's only been December, but of course we are at an unprecedented time, so perhaps time is moving faster than we thought.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're right, because it's only really been a few months, if you will. But it seems like a lot longer than that. I don't know how we would have done it without you. So, so anyway, I wanted to bring you on today and share this call because I think during this time we've talked a lot about investments with people, and that's been a lot of people's focus. But given that we're a financial planning focused group as well. We want to really talk about the financial planning aspect of what's going on and what impacts this whole crisis is having on that, if any, and ultimately what role financial planning is playing in de-stressing people, if you will, or keeping people comfortable in the situation and knowing that they're going to be okay at the end of it. So I think that good place to start is how did your role, especially as a financial planner, and taking that perspective. How did planning ahead of time prepare clients, in your opinion, for the events that are currently going on?
Yeah, and you know what? I love many things about Endeavour, but I think the thing that really resonates the most with me is it's not just about investing. It is about the holistic. It's about the whole plan. And I have to think that anytime that you're prepared and anytime you have a plan, it brings a level of comfort. So as you said, as we think about a financial plan, we think about certainly the assets, but we look at liabilities. We always look at the insurance needs and the coverage, and certainly along with your estate intentions and your planning. So ensuring that all of those things that are in place, if you know that it's there and you can take a look at it, I don't know, it brings comfort. And I always go back to a quote that I think about with planning, and it's expect the best, plan for the worst, be prepared to be surprised. Mm-hmm. And with a plan in place, I think COVID-19, sure, were there things on the horizon, whatever, but I mean, unless you're the fan of like pandemic movies or whatever else, who would ever have thought that something like this would affect not only our city, our province, our country, but the whole world? So coming back to a little bit smaller, if all we can, one of the things that we can do is just look at what we're doing ourselves. So if we are prepared with a plan, then we are in a position then to be able to take a look and go, okay, where am I at now and where would I like to go? So hopefully some financial planning is bringing comfort to our clients at this time.
Yeah, I think that it's so important. I mean, actually, I had a call. You and I were just talking about this call, but I had the call with Dr. Jason Brooks earlier in the week, and we were talking about more of the psychology around, how to de-stress people. But a big part of that is having a plan. Now, he was talking more about having a plan for life and like what you would do in certain situations depending on this crisis. But financial planning is no different than that. I mean, really what we're talking about is just preparing, as you say, preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, and I can't remember the last part. Hoping for some surprises.
Best, plan for the worst, and prepare to be surprised.
Yeah, and I think that's so perfect actually, because I can't tell you how many people have been surprised by what's going on right now. But at the same time, with good financial plans in place leading into this, you plan for the worst case scenarios. And I don't even necessarily think that this is the worst case scenario going on right now. I think there's a lot of bad things that can happen out there, to be honest. And I'm an optimist, and I get that, but I personally feel like I've seen worse, and so. But either way, having a plan in place is certainly should help to alleviate that stress, and that's what we've been focusing on for many years with clients is making sure that they're prepared for these things that can happen, because you never know what it's going to be. We, as you said, we don't know if it's going to be a pandemic. We don't know if it's going to be a financial crisis or a tech bubble crash or whatever it's going to be. But we do know there's something that's going to happen. It always is, right? Like,
yeah, well, that and change. Those are things that are constants in our lives. But if I could, I know that we talked about the financial plan, and I know that there are many elements of it. But when I speak to you specifically, if an investor would ask you right now, is this now a buying opportunity? What would you say?
Oh, good question, because I've been answering that question a lot. Yeah, in one answer, I say yes, but there is a caveat to that as well, because I think going back to everybody's individual plan, it depends on everybody's unique situation that they're in. And I just actually wrote an article for our newsletter on this, because it's not everybody is able to take advantage of this opportunity. I think it's an opportunity for sure, and I think that what we look at on that is if you're looking at buying high quality investment assets, whatever that would be, like let's just talk about companies for a second. If you're looking at buying a high quality company, what are you willing to pay for that company? And based on, and essentially what you're trying to do is figure out what's the value of that company. And if what the market is telling you is saying that it's currently trading below what you think that value is, like a lot of great companies are right now, and especially like they were even a month ago or 3 weeks ago, then yeah, it becomes a really great buying opportunity, with the caveat though, that if you're willing to wait for that value to be realized, and that might take 1 year, 2 years, 6 months. I would have to plan though for at least a longer term period of time, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, to realize that value. And if you're not willing to wait on that long term period of time, because a lot of people have been asking me, what can I do for the next 6 months? Where's the opportunity for the next 6 months? If you need your money in the next 6 months, I can't guarantee the market's going to be higher in 6 months, or that asset's going to be higher. It's too difficult to say. But I think this is where, relating this back to planning though, because I think this is where, again, financial planning really helps us to make that decision, or actually what I should say is helps our clients to make that decision, helps us to advise them on it. Because when we look at the plan and we know that, here's your short-term goals, medium-term and longer-term goals, they're all built into your plan. We can now look at the situation, we can now look at the opportunities and say, you know what, for these longer-term goals, here's the opportunity that the market is presenting to you right now, and we should take advantage of that. And I think that if you go in with that mindset, having that roadmap in place, it becomes a lot easier to make those decisions. So, again, to get back to your original question, short answer is yes, but we need to look at the plan to be sure of that for each individual.
You know what, Grant? What I'm hearing is that your advice today, in the middle of COVID-19, is no different than it was pre-COVID-19.
Well, it's true, right? Because does this change anything all that much from a normal period of time? Not really. I mean, we're certainly more active, and things are changing quicker right now on a day-to-day, maybe even hour-by-hour basis. But the advice remains the same: is that it all comes back to focusing on what's important to the individual client, or their family, or their business, and what opportunity is available out there. Because you're right, we're always looking at these opportunities. Is this any different? Yeah, because the opportunities are there. Over the
Right.
last 10 years, I don't think we've seen as good of an opportunity since the financial crisis. But we're always looking for them anyway.
Yeah. So looping back a little, back to financial planning, and as we talked about, assets are certainly an important part of a financial plan. And when we take a look at assets and where an investment portfolio is going to go, we always look at risk tolerance. So, what would be your advice right now to investors in regards to risk tolerance? Should
Mhm.
Would you think that that's an important thing to review at this point, or does it matter?
Yes, I do think it's important to review. I caution people about changing it though, because I think it's easy to get out of line with what your true comfort levels are based on market fluctuations. Now, what people might be finding right now is that they had overextended their comfort, if you will, for volatility, because in a market like we saw over the last 10 years, it was easy to be comfortable with volatility because, frankly, the markets were going straight up for the most part. So there was, that was easy to happen. You really find out where your comfort levels are on the downside of things, though. And I think that there's probably people that found that they had probably a little bit more volatility than what they were expecting. I mean, thankfully, I think from talking with all of our clients and talking with other people that that we've worked with, I think that we were pretty good on that front. Although sometimes you get surprises, but I think that there's a lot of investors out there that have found that they probably were overextended in this. So I guess what I'm saying on that front is it a good time to change? Not necessarily. I don't think so. I think what you should be doing though is if you had a plan in place, getting back to that plan or sticking to that plan, I should say. And the hardest thing to do is rebalancing your portfolio. It's hard on both sides. It's hard on the upside because you don't want to sell off assets that have gone up in value to buy assets that are pretty stagnant, like bonds or things like that when markets are rising. But it's even hard. It's probably harder even right now because what you'd be asking somebody to do is rebalance their portfolio from safe assets, whether it's like a hedging strategy or bonds or cash even, and going into buying these stocks that have gone down 20, 30% maybe, and say, you know what, this is the time to buy this asset. Because, again, it's human psychology is telling us to run away from that pain. So I don't necessarily think it's a good what I'd say is I don't think you should get away from your comfort levels. I don't think you should start changing that just because of the market. What I do think though is you need to stick to it. That's harder sometimes. You need to stick to that, rebalance into it, and stick to the plan. Because if you have a longer term approach, like most financial plans would, then nothing happening today in my mind is changing that longer term approach. It's not going to impact the longer term approach as long as you're doing the things that you need to do on a disciplined basis. So
Right.
I mean, I think that's that's a long-winded answer to that question, but
No, that's hey. I understand. I too have had conversations more with family and friends, the panicked calls about what we should do. And you often wonder when you take a look at your portfolio, when it was up, did anyone think about selling it? No. It's now we think about it. But if your long-term goals haven't changed, why change it? But you as an advisor, these unprecedented world events, as we keep saying over and over again, how do you think that these are going to affect and inform you as a role in your role as an advisor, Grant?
oh, that's another good question, and I think that this is something that in my meetings with you, I've recognized that I think you're really good at this, and it's a natural thing. But I think that if you're looking at, I'll put a note on this one because it depends on the advisor. Now, I'm different than a lot of other advisors out there because what I'm interested in is going beyond just regular investment advice. If you're an advisor that focuses solely on investment advice, then maybe this doesn't change. But for me and for the advisors at Endeavour, um, the way that I see this is that there's incredible opportunity right now as well to be connected with clients and talk to them about the risks and the stresses that go beyond financial stress as well. Now, financial stress, is, as we know, is one of the biggest contributors to overall stress. I mean, that's people deal with that on a pretty regular basis, and so I think that what going beyond that, though, what this pandemic has presented is an opportunity to talk about other things. Like, for example, I was chatting with a medical professional last week, and one of their biggest concerns right now, they're not so much worried about their money. They know through many conversations with me that their money will be fine in the long term. They don't need it next week. They need, it's a longer term approach. So they're fine with everything that's going on from the money side of things. They're fine with their financial plan. What their concern is, what happens if I get sick working on the front lines and then I go home to my kids and I bring that home with me and I either infect them, or what do I do? And that's the fear that they have right now. And so I think the opportunity is there to help clients on a different level and talk to them about, well, how do you plan for that? And one of the things that we do on the financial planning side, which actually translates over, is thinking through every single possible scenario. And if you think through from start to completion, everything that could happen, as best you can, obviously, if you think through everything that could happen, then what you can do is start planning for them. Once you've identified all those different pathways, then you can create a plan around it. Okay, well, if this happens, here's what I'm going to do. If this happens, here's what I'm going to do. And once you have that figured out, man, comfort sets in. I mean, we've seen it on the financial side when we're doing our plans. When as soon as you start having a plan, it might not even be done, but as soon as you give them that first draft of the plan, you see that stress just alleviate off of their shoulders, right?
Yeah.
And I think that translates over right now to developing deeper connections with clients and developing just better relationships, long-term relationships that we're really interested in. And I have a saying, and this is actually going back to, I'll give Jason Brooks credit again on this one, because he's probably listening too, but I'll give him credit because he's the one who coined this and helped me with this. But never react, only respond, and respond appropriately. And so if you're not reacting to situations because you've thought everything through and you've created a plan around it, it's I wouldn't say it's easy, but you're that much more prepared, and the stress level is just that much more reduced. So that's the changing. I think this has been happening for a while, but this pandemic has really pointed that out, that's the changing role of an advisor, is that there's more opportunities to speak with clients about these things. And we're prepared to talk with clients about these things too. There's ways that we can help you out beyond just, financial planning and investing. We're going to take care of all that. We want to, that's what we do for sure. But there's other things that we need to consider about as well. Maybe this is bringing up conversations around planning for tax situations that might come up. If the investments are down, maybe it's a tax loss selling situation. Estate planning. Maybe this is helping people think about mortality a little bit more, as morbid as that is. But but those are important things to be discussing, right? So
yeah, no, it's true. And anytime we have an experience, we learn from that experience. We can share that what we've learned with others. I guess something that's a little bit different with this experience is that we're all going through it. So it's not like, oh, I went through this. No, everybody's going through it in some way, shape, or form. So yeah. Basically what I'm hearing is that what you've been doing and what you modeled Endeavour to be, this is kind of the proof in the pudding. Everything that you've set it up to be and wanted to do with your clients, this is validating those things that you put into place, and is going to continue to help make our clients be successful.
Well, that's it at the end of the day. I mean, I always say that Endeavour is an opportunity business, and really what we're here to do is create as many opportunities for our clients to be successful as possible. Whatever that success might be, it's different for everybody, right? But that's what we're here to do. And yeah, absolutely. This situation that we're in, I think, yes, it's an opportunity to validate the things that we do, but it's also an opportunity for us to look at the things that we do and make sure that we are enhancing them as much as possible as well, and being, in an all hands on deck situation. I mean, I think the interesting part for this is that when have businesses ever been forced to work as remotely as we are right now? I mean, you're at your place, I'm at my house, we're talking, we're advising clients, we've done meetings like this, and so, it's creating a new paradigm for us to work, which we never probably ever considered that we'd be in. Thankfully, we had enough foresight, I guess, to have a technology platform that could do all this.
Yeah.
But it's definitely created a new paradigm of delivering that advice, and hence why we're doing these types of calls now. So I think that's changed the way we're doing it. But yeah, it's definitely a validation and also opportunities for us to look at, can we be better? And we're always doing that as well. I think that this also, just given where everything's going or where everything's been, I've had a couple clients ask me this, and thankfully I had really good answers for them on it. But I'm curious to know what you think about, anybody that was looking at retiring over the next little while. Would it be wise for them to delay that, or would it be or should they continue on? What do you think?
Wow. Your turn for a great question.
Yeah.
Hopefully this doesn't sound like a cop-out, but it really depends on each situation. And it's really important that we review it as individuals, because there's many factors to consider. We need to look or each individual needs to look at their family situation. A lot of things may have changed in regards to that. Some may be positive, some may be negative. Job situation. A lot depends on the industry they're in and where they're in, and that can dovetail into, if they had a work pension, how that pension is being affected. So at this point, there's no hard and fast answer. What would be important to do is, shockingly, review the plan.
Yeah.
Review your financial plan, and we need to adjust for the situation and where you're in now. There are variables that will have changed. For some people, it may make sense for a lot of reasons. I won't be surprised to learn that some people may retire a little bit earlier than they thought they were going to. And then there's going to be others that are going to extend it, and some are going to stay the same. But let's take the opportunity, take a look at your financial plan, and move it around with what is true now, not what it was a year ago or 2 years ago, what it's going to look like now going into the future. And for some people, we may not be in a position, we may not know yet. There is going to be a lot of things that are still going to happen over the next while. So.
Yeah, I think that's so true and so right. I mean, I think that there's things that are out of anybody's control that are unforeseen. Like we have people that have been, not clients, I should say, clients and contacts of ours that have been laid off, that you never would have expected those people to be laid off based on their role. Whether they're dentists or other kinds of professionals. They just, because of what's going on and social distancing, their whole workplace is laid off essentially, and so there's situations created there where you never thought that would happen. Other situations where maybe a large part of income is tied to a company's profitability. Well, profitability this year for many companies has probably gone out the window, or it's going to be severely reduced, to say the least, So there's definitely situations like that which are out of everybody's control. I do think that, part of our planning process does help prepare people for this. Like I've heard a lot of stories where it's like, oh, well, the stock market's down, so I can't retire. And that exactly, your reaction is perfect to that, because if the stock market's, yeah, if the stock market down now, it means you can't retire in 2 months, well, then there was a problem right from the get-go in your plan, I think, So if that was the only thing that you were relying on, there should have been adjustments made. And I just had conversations with 2 clients last week about that exact same thing, because both of them are still able to retire. They're surprised that my answer was nothing changes. Keep the retirement date, because we'd planned for this. We've actually already prepared their portfolio for this through different things, like having a cash wedge strategy in place where we've got already 2 to 3 years worth of income set aside for them. So they were pleasantly surprised. Now they might decide to continue to work because they're like, maybe there's opportunities for me to continue to work and I don't mind it. That's one thing, right? Another person I talked to, here's an opportunity that maybe you don't get every day too, is their company is looking at ways to cut costs. And so they actually have packaged out a number of employees. Sure. They were close to retirement, probably a year or 2 away. In this case, actually, they were a year away from it. They got packaged out 2 years worth of salary. Wow. So they decided, awesome, they were ready to go, So there's situations like that, which maybe retirement plans are accelerated. But yeah, I mean, I think, bottom line is though, you just have to review the plan overall and see how what's going on today impacts you. If it's stock market, it shouldn't impact you because the markets will come back, and you shouldn't be reliant on it in the next 2 to 3 months anyway. But that will come back. But there are other factors, and you're absolutely right. The only way to know is to reevaluate the plans. So on that though, going forward, because thinking forward to this post COVID-19 world, which we'll get to. We're getting through this.
Yeah, we are.
What do you think people should be considering for their planning after COVID-19?
Yeah, I love the question. First of all, have a plan. Having a plan would be good.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Planning is going to continue to be important. We always say with a financial plan, it should be reviewed every year and when there's a major life event. I'm going to figure that COVID-19 is a major life event. So perfect time to take a look. And one of the questions, and you know this from our meetings, the question that I ask every client is, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? So everyone should be asking themselves that question and think about, maybe the answers may be different than they were 6 months ago or a year ago. And again, as we talked about, there's going to be opportunities at this time. There's going to be a lot of opportunities, really. I can appreciate that it might be challenging to see those opportunities right now, but there are going to be opportunities. And I know you spoke of that in a blog post as well. But there's also going to be challenges. So take a look. Like, what are your goals? Where do you see yourself and your family and whatever in 3 to 5 years? And what plan is needed to get you there? So if you have a plan, let's take a look at it. And if you don't have a plan, probably not that surprising. Not as many people as we would like have a financial plan. Now's the time to create it. Sit down with a professional, take a look and create a plan, and make sure that whatever your goals and your plans are, a lot of things and how you think now, it might be a kind of an interesting thing to do is we're kind of maybe in the middle of this right now, but think about where you see yourself in 3 to 5 years, then take a look at it in 6 months and see if that's still the same.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, travel is a huge thing. Well, right now, travel, not a possibility.
Right.
I think things are going to move around and change. But at the end of the day, we started with it. We're coming to it now. Being prepared, having a plan. Again, let me say it again. Expect the best, plan for the worst, and be prepared to be surprised.
Yeah.
And a plan a plan is the only way to help you get there.
Yeah. I can completely agree, and I think that when these things happen, and again, it doesn't have to be a pandemic; it could be a lot of different things. Sure. Priorities are reevaluated. In a lot of cases, you're right. Like traveling. When are people going to feel comfortable traveling again? Not even when the restrictions are lifted. When are you going to feel comfortable? So that might have changed for people. Maybe not, but it might. Maybe those plans where they were going to spend $20,000 traveling next year, maybe they're not spending $20,000 on that. Maybe they want to spend that somewhere else.
No, instead of traveling, that pool in the backyard, if you have a backyard, might look good. But we always, again, we review plans yearly or when there's a life-changing event. COVID-19, life-changing event. Getting married, having a family, something happening to a spouse, like whatever. There's so many life-changing events. The basic essence of financial planning hasn't changed. That what we want to do and what we think about doing. We talked about a little bit earlier about a lot of the things that we do in a financial plan. We do talk about worst case scenarios. What COVID-19 has done is given us it's going to be an omnipresent worst case scenario for many to think about. But we talk about it a lot with estate planning and everything else. And I've read articles that some lawyers are busier than they have ever been in regards to things like wills and power of attorneys and healthcare directives, because something like this has brought it to the forefront. It's too bad that it's taken this to do it, but that's an element that we've always talked about when we do our financial planning. So I don't know. I am optimistic, though. I am very optimistic. I am like you.
Yeah, I do think it's. I do think these times when you have a moment to reflect on what's really important to you, and I think a lot of people are doing that right now. You reflect on it, and then you get to an opportunity to rethink about how you want to live your life, or who's important in your life, or so on and so forth, and that always has an element of contribution to everybody's plan going forward. And so I think that it's not surprising to me that a lot of people are doing that work right now, and the lawyers are busier than they've ever been. I feel like, we've been pretty busy as well, in a good way. I never complain about it, but I think it certainly puts a lot of people, like, it changes their frame of mind about what's important, and then alternatively their plans going forward need to reflect that as well. So, and then knowing that could change in 2 years again too, so or 6 months, or whatever it's going to be.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Every year.
I think the bottom line of it all is, in order to make good, educated decisions, informed decisions, the only way to do that is to have that plan in place. It relieves the stress up front. So when you go into these types of events, you can feel comfortable knowing that, you know what, I'm going to be okay. We plan for worst case scenarios. This is a bad scenario, but we know that we've planned for it. We're going to be just fine. So there's a stress release in there, but also the ability to take advantage of opportunities. The only way to do that comfortably is knowing, how does taking advantage of this opportunity impact my longer term, my other goals. And by being able to make that informed decision, you feel a lot more comfortable, and you feel a lot easier about pulling the trigger maybe on some of those things as well. So
I concur totally.
Well, I think
this good working relationship, Grant.
good. I wouldn't even call it yin and yang. It's yin and yin, but
Yeah, definitely.
So you know what? I think we've covered everything that we wanted to today. Unless you have anything else you'd like to add.
No, just I guess a thank you to all of the frontline workers. I have a good friend who is an ICU nurse at a hospital in Winnipeg, and certainly get a perspective from that. All of the essential workers from all of the different industries that are keeping us going, and I'm pretty proud to be a Canadian right now, and being where we live. I think we're pretty fortunate. So
yeah, I couldn't agree more.
I am thankful for many things.
I couldn't agree more, and I'll just add one more onto that. I'm also grateful for all the great businesses that are doing their part right now, answering the call. We see so many of them here in Manitoba. I think during great challenges, great people and great companies step up to do great things, and we're seeing a lot of that right now. So it's pretty impressive stuff. So anyway, Rita, we'll finish it off there, but thank you so much for this. And for anybody watching, if you have questions, go to www.endeavourwealth.ca, and all of our contact information is there. So feel free to reach out to us anytime. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.